Thank you so much again just for doing this. I guess now it's been 6 months or so since your release of this
Yeah.
newest book. Now that it's been a little bit of time since that
Yeah.
kind of first went out into the world and those first
Yeah.
conversations, just how are you feeling today?
Yeah. Thanks. That's such a sweet question. Um, Awake released in September, and it was just like a whirlwind. I mean, just an absolute tornado of travel and book tour and interviews, and it was just like nonstop foot on the gas. Um, and so now I'm in that quieter season. So it's 6 months in the world, and I really love this moment because I am now getting to sort of live the message of Awake with my community. So the like razzle dazzle is behind us, and now we're having these really deep, meaningful, beautiful conversations around some of the key themes. And so I find it like as incredible source material for my online community that we are now building out of. We just built this whole kind of gathering space on Substack called the Awake Collective. And it was out of this. It was because the response from readers was just so overwhelming. And with questions like, what now? What next? And I'm like, well, let's keep going then. And so I'm in a really lovely season of the Awake message where it's kind of boots on the ground.
Yeah, and I'm sure those people, that are a part of that following have probably been with you for decades now, but this is kind of the most personal
Yeah.
that you're really getting with that community with your life, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that is so true. I do have women in the community who have been here for 15, 20 years, which is bananas. Because I have changed a lot in 20 years. And so a lot of us sort of evolved together and grew up together, really. And so we kind of started once upon a time on the internet as young moms, and now we're launching our kids. Some of us are grandmothers. Like it's just been a really like beautiful longevity with the community. But this is certainly a different book than my previous books. It is in every way, in form, in content, obviously, in style. I've a lot of my earlier books tended to be sort of prescriptive in that I'd taken an idea, like thought about it, read about it, researched it, spent like tons of time on it, and then sort of presented my findings to the reader. Like, here's what we think about this. Um, but this one is not like that at all. It is not prescriptive. It is not a how to. It is not steps to getting divorced. It is not any of that. It's really just descriptive. And so the whole book is just told in little tiny short scenes and vignettes and memories and moments that span really like 40 years, but center around the primary story of losing a 26-year marriage and then the grief and the recovery and then ultimately rebuilding process.
It's interesting, when you phrase it like that, because I feel like for a lot of people, that's how they would prefer to
Mm,
learn and to
yeah,
be encouraged and supported. People
yeah,
don't necessarily always want a formula. They would
totally.
just rather see an example of kind of
That's right.
what you've gone through and then how you've been able to wake up, you know?
Totally. This is definitely a show, don't tell story in which I didn't try to come up with any answers for anybody. I'm certainly not creating a formula. I didn't, I wrote the whole thing in real time. It took me about a third of the book to master it. Where, like, if I told a memory from a moment in sixth grade, I wrote it as if it had just happened. So I wrote it in real time. Like, so I didn't even give myself the luxury of hindsight or, distance from the original story to, and this is what I've learned from it, or this is what I can conclude. I just laid it on the page as it happened, as if it were that day, and I draw no conclusions. And so I just really trusted the reader to be smart and to pick up what they needed and to find all the connective threads in the story. And of course, I have the most like brilliant community. And so it's been really lovely and surprising and wonderful to find out how this story is affecting people in so many different ways because they're taking what they need from it. I mean, there's a lot in there where even if divorce has no relevance to you at all, everything else. I mean, it's not really just a book about divorce. It's really a book about a coming of middle age.
I mean, you talk about just these aspects of your life and just your life in general, being very public, being in these spaces. But then just, sit there and still decide, I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
Why still do that? Why is that so important for you? And to just be so real and upfront about, sitting in those moments.
My community has been a deep part of my life for almost 20 years. I've lived my life in front of them, my family, my marriage. I've grown up as a mom in front of them. I've evolved as a person of faith in front of them. Um, and all along the way, just been like, come with me if you want to. Like, there's room in this car for our questions and our growth. And so when I lost my marriage in 2020, at that point, my community is already so deeply invested in my life and in my family and in my story. And to be honest, it never occurred to me that this would not be something that I processed personally myself first. Of course, you don't write from a wound, you write from a scar, um, to do the work. But then I knew that I would eventually bring this to the world because frankly, I am a writer. Writing is how I make sense of my world. It is how I find myself. It is how I process what I'm learning, what I'm thinking, what I'm going through. I don't I don't have a better tool at my disposal than a blank page. And so when I had done so much of the heavy lifting of healing through all the mechanisms, all of it, medication for a season, counseling, every sort of intervention that will get a person through a crisis, I knew then I was ready to write.
But then when you start getting the messages back, or you start those conversations in those communities that you've created, um, what's been the response from them, and just being able to, you know, get to see, into your life and get that honesty, and then follow up, not just read the book and then it's done, but continue that conversation alongside you.
What the readers were telling me was, I've been through that too. That was my story also. I had that exact same confusion. I had that exact same pain. And so it turned out to be a witness for people in a way that was also really powerful, because also hearing someone say their story that you have also experienced is also powerful. It's a legitimizer, it is an authenticator to say you weren't wrong and you were worthy of better than what you received, and you weren't alone in that pain. And so it has created a real beautiful community around, and who are we now, and what do we want out of the second half of life. It's a very exciting conversation, and I'm thrilled to be in it with so many smart, brilliant women, um, who are deciding to be the author of the second half of their life.
Then when you get to take that out on the road and do these in-person events, what does that kind of look like, and what opportunities, will the women and anyone here in Lubbock have, to when they go to this event?
I'm so excited to come to Lubbock. Lubbock has a real special place in my heart. My son went to Texas Tech, and I have been out there in as a speaker in a sort of a leadership capacity several times, and I've just said it, but like there's some sort of interesting magic in Lubbock. Like it's a little, it can be surprising, not that I would think anything less of a town. It's just I didn't have a lot of experience with Lubbock, so I'm thinking it's West Texas, it's remote, it's way, but there's some sort of secret sauce to the community that I really love. And I'm surprised every time I go out there how loyal and deep even my community is that live in Lubbock. I've got a bunch of Lubbock girls and I love it. And so I'm thrilled to come back out there. I'm going to be there on April 9th at Second Baptist. And this is for everybody. So this is if you are a church person, if you're not, if you're a person of faith, if you're not, if you're a woman, if you're a man, like this is really more like a community conversation. And Second is hosting it for us. And so I'm thrilled about it because there's nothing better than being in a room with each other. I always say this, and I mean this sincerely. When I travel and I am with people in the flesh, it always feels like a reunion to me because I deeply love my community. Even though the majority of our connection with each other is online, it's real. It's real. That doesn't make it fake. That it does not make it artificial. It is genuine, and we have walked through so many fires together. And so when we're finally under the same roof anywhere, I feel like I'm with people that I feel like I've known forever, just like sisters. And so, and the husbands they drag along. There's always some men in the room. So anybody listening, don't be afraid. You won't be the only dude that shows up. I promise.
It's special to me. It's a special city to me, and I'm delighted to come back.